answer, it's just maybe you didn't hear it properly, so let's go ahead.
When Marcus was wrestling with his shot, it was worse in January, I guess. He was talking about you could play defense, you could do all these other things and not. How do you think he sort of handled some of those lowest points when the frustration on his shot was getting to him and doing other things to help you?
I think he handled it possibly better than any player I've ever seen. You know, because not only it was bothering him, he's a very, very much analytical mind about how he's playing and what his value is. He sees that his value is everywhere, but we need the ball to go in the basket. It's called a scoreboard. But I think that he handled it better than anybody I've ever seen, and he believed in what the staff was telling him about how he could still help us and what he was doing to help us. But it was tougher on him than anybody. And he's a perfectionist in about everything he does, and so when the ball's not going in the basket, it was bothering him greatly, and he did a great job of hiding it from his teammates. But we had some conversations. I told him just keep playing. I still have confidence every time he goes up to shoot the ball. I think it's going in. So that's a pretty good feeling to have as a coach.
Roy, when players go back home, sometimes I don't know if it's a matter of just pressing and wanting to play perfect, but you know sometimes they can end up in some dud of the games. Is there anything? How are you approaching kind of adjusting in that sense? In terms
not even talking about it. I mean, it's not going back home. It's we're going to the Final Four to play basketball. And that's what it is. It's not Marcus back to Northern Iowa, or Greg Ostractag back to Duncanville, Texas, or anything like that, or Tyler Zeller to Evansville. It's, we're going to play in the Final Four and have a chance to win a national championship. So I really don't even worry about that whatsoever. He's not going to have any more relatives there than anybody else is because we can't get the tickets.
Or you've mentioned Joel James's journey at times and how impressed you've been by just kind of his odyssey. Have you ever recruited another kid who started playing basketball so late in his development in 10th grade?
Andrew, not that I can, not that jumps right out at me. I mean, this is a kid who said his first organized basketball game was when he was a 10th grader. You know, and you've heard the story before. Everybody had tries, especially early in his career, we're trying to help out Joel. And I asked him, I said, "You want me to coach you and tell everybody else to shut the blankety blank up and leave you alone?" He said, "Yes." And I asked Dexter, I said, "When did you start playing basketball?" He said, 6 years old. And I asked JP, and he said about 5 or something like that. I don't know if I'll get it exactly right. I said, "Well, this guy started when he was a sophomore in high school. Leave him alone, let me coach him." But I don't know of anybody else that I've ever coached that had that kind of limitation about when he started playing.
Your use of blankety blank just now actually leads into another question I had for you, so I might as well bring it up now. Doing a piece kind of on just like your unique way of talking at times, you know, like dadgum, blankety blank, Jiminy Christmas, and I'm wondering kind of where you come up with this stuff, or if you have any thoughts on how you got to talk like this.
When I grew up, there was a lot of foul language. When I became a high school player, my coach never did that. When I first went to Kansas, I told them that give me 7 curse words a year, and pretty much I stuck to that the first couple of years. Then at Kansas State, they started calling me Mr. Perfect. And so the first press conference I went to after that, I said ASS to somebody just to show them I wasn't perfect kind of thing. And I think I overreacted and went too much in that direction. But Jiminy Christmas and Aaron Dadgum T and all that stuff, I don't know where it came from. It's just maybe your RFD, I guess, I don't know. But I like to think, let me put it this way, I like to think that I have a pretty good vocabulary. But I told a high school coaching friend of mine one time, I said, "He gets so irritated. When I get irritated, I start cursing more." And I said, "I wish I didn't do that." And he said, "Don't worry about it." He said, sometimes, he said, that's the language that the players understand the most. And I told him, I said, "Man, I don't know that I'd agree with that." So I went back and said something to 2 of my guys on my team. And they said, "Oh yeah, Coach, we do understand that. It's the language that we hear all the time." And so it's still not an excuse for it. Sometimes I just screw it up and say things that I wish I hadn't said, but I do believe in talking properly, and I do believe in not cursing, and but sometimes it just happens, and I let it go. I don't think it's the biggest sin I have. I'm sure I've got a lot more worse things that I do than that, but right now I just wish my throat felt well enough to even curse you guys and get my blankety blank out of here.
7 a year. I would be up by 10 a.m.
Yeah, my first year is 7. Milt Newton, who's the general manager of Minnesota Timberwolves right now, was on my first team. He said, "You guys are all acting like Coach is just laid back, nice guy." He said, "Coach has got a mean streak about him." And he said, "He still doesn't curse, but Coach has got a mean streak about him." So, yeah, sometimes I just screw it up.
Yeah, building off of that, the last time you faced off with Coach Boeheim in the Final Four was in 2003. Have you guys had any conversations with any of your great friends about that game at all? And what kind of
No, hadn't had any conversation about it at all. I remember going down there and said, "I'm very, very happy for you. I'm sad for the team, but Jimmy, I'm really happy for you." And he said, "You're going to get one soon." And, but I don't know that we've ever even talked about that exchange. We usually talk about rules that we don't like, officials that we don't like, or bets that we're going to make on the golf course or something like that. But we haven't talked about that yet.
When you look at the,
difficult facing off with a friend like that in a game like
I think it's always difficult to play a friend. I've adopted something that I sort of like, is I try to never look at the other coach during the game. I just try to coach my team, not get involved in anything else. And for the most part, I've done a lot better job of that this year and last year than I ever have before. But at the end of the game, when you go to shake that guy's hand, and all of a sudden it's no game anymore, and you're talking to an individual, and in a lot of cases it means a great deal to you. The worst for me was Jared Hass, when we played at UAB a couple of years ago, and they beat us. And see the look on his face, and it was almost like he was sorry. And I didn't want him to feel that, but that was the worst. But the other would be Coach Smith. There's no doubt about that. I mean, played Wes Miller, and that's hard, but Coach Smith in '91 to be ejected from the game, I just didn't think it was fair. And I was really mad about that. And Coach said, "You know, I didn't plan this." And I said, "No, Coach, I understand that." I said, "It just makes me mad that he would do something like that, because this is going to take away from the great win for my team." And it did. And I was madder about that part. But no, when the game's over with and you start walking to that guy and shake his hand, it's not a good moment. And I'm very fortunate because all three of these guys in the Final Four, Jimmy Boeheim and I played a lot of golf together, been on the board of directors together, we're on the Coaches versus Cancer board together. Lon Kruger and I play a lot of golf together. Lon comes and meets me in Pinehurst every year right before school starts, and we play golf. Jay Wright, I got a note from Jay during the season this year. He and his wife have been awfully nice to me in Wanda, and so I'm very fortunate. I've got three guys that I not only genuinely like, but have really good respect for.
Right, how much contact do the players on this team have with the guys from the 05 and 09 teams, other than Sean May, obviously, but, and is this a time of year where you'd maybe like them to have some conversations with those guys about this experience?
You know, Luke, I've been thinking about that even just today, because this morning I felt terrible. I was laying in the daggone bed trying to figure out how I was going to get up. But get Sean to maybe talk to the team about his feelings before we arrived in St. Louis. They don't, to answer the first part of your question, in the summertime is when our guys have a lot of contact with those guys, because Jawad's here playing, Marvin's here playing, Sean's here playing, Tyler's here playing, so Marcus Ginyard's here, so they have a lot of contact during that time period. But during the course of the year, I have no idea. I know that guys have group message boards or group, I don't know what crap I'm talking about.
Text messages.
You're good.
They talk to each other all the time, that kind of thing. But other than that, during the summers when they really have some time period. I'm one of those guys, I don't ever believe in bringing any special preachers to expect a miracle or anything like that. But I think sometimes it does help just to get an experience. So I may ask Sean to think about it and say something, be ready to say something to the team, as long as it feels like it's good at that moment.
When you look at the run that Bryce is on, how does that compare to what Sean did in 2005?
Sean was a dominating player, and he really was, and Bryce is a dominating player right now. Bryce blocked more shots, Sean was more consistent with his play on the defensive end of the floor by a huge margin. But the numbers that they're putting up is really impressive. I mean, Bryce and I talked yesterday about the technical. I mean, you know, it's not like he slammed the ball down on the floor and screamed obscenities or anything like that. He got a technical for doing something silly. And I think if you go back in the Indiana game, he did the same thing, except he's got the ball and he just threw it back over his head, and the player standing out of bounds, the referee caught it and handed it to the guy. You know, and he didn't realize that he was showing displeasure that much, but it made me mad because he was that close to getting technical in Louisville. You remember the Louisville game, their kid batted the ball into the stands, and the referee gave him a technical. And then Bryce goes to shoot the free throw, he missed it, he came back to it, and he batted the ball down, you know, into his hands, and it came back up. One of the games he caught the ball this year and threw it against the goal support, bounced back to him, and he handed the ball to the referee. Bryce apologized in front of the media, apologized to my team, but he's been a dominating force around the basket, blocking shots, rebounding the ball, and scoring the ball. In the first half of the Notre Dame game, I was worried if it was fool's goal because he was shooting all jump shots. And I wanted to keep getting the ball inside, so hopefully we'd get August out of the game. It's very comparable to two stretch runs that those guys have had, and thankfully both of them lasted a long time too.
Why do you think playing from the inside out is the best way to play?
It's very easy. It's our Providence game. Who were Providence's two best players? They were sitting on the bench at the end of the game, and that's all it is. And I've said forever, and I think it might even be true here, but I just didn't know enough about their team. I've never seen a team that shot 35 threes a game win a national championship, with the possible exception of Connecticut. Everybody's always had somebody inside that you can play. My reason for always playing inside out is because at the end of the game, I don't want to be playing against the other team's 5 best players. And Providence, Chris Dunn set out 9 minutes the first half, and Bento fouled out with 7 minutes to go in the game. 100 years ago, we played Bobby Huggins, the Cincinnati team. They had Danny Fortson, who was just kicking our rear end. But then all of a sudden, he stopped kicking our rear end because he said we were in the bench in foul trouble, and we won the game. But it's not just, I like the way he said it because I go inside first, but I do want a good balance. I'd like to shoot threes better than we shot it. And I want to go to the free throw line more than the other team and have good balance.
Coach, where do you pull your thoughts of the day from against players?
Oh my gosh, I've got thousands of them. I really do. John Lotz was an assistant basketball coach here when I was in school. And Coach Lotz gave me a lot of those when I first got out and was a high school coach. And every year or so I'd get some more from him. And then he sort of got out at Kansas that I was doing that, and I got more and more and more. I could probably open that drawer on my left side of my desk and I would literally have thousands of thoughts for the day. And then Coach Smith, when I came back here, he had on the Rolodex some thoughts for the day. And I asked him if I could have that, and he said, I wanted to give it to you, but I just wanted you to find it. And because he just left it at the desk. And I don't know that Matt ever had it or whatever, it didn't matter, I didn't care, but I like because Coach Smith always put down the date when he used that thought for the day. And so I've continued doing that as well. I put down the date when I used it, except for the one that you heard about this weekend came from one of my former high school players. But I still have that Rolodex, and hopefully a long time from now, when I retire, I'll be able to give it to somebody else.
So are the other ones like in a notebook?
Yeah. So John Lotz, thoughts for a chalkboard. Coach Lotz sent me one that was probably 25 pages long and just filled with quotes from Vince Lombardi, from Arnold Palmer, from anybody and everybody in the sports world.
So to piggyback off an earlier question, how would you compare this year for Bryce to maybe Hansborough in 07 or Zeller in 2012, or sorry, 08 for Hansborough, like big men who have been really dominant for a whole year and had All-American level seasons?
Well, Tyler dominated the game on every play. just with his effort. And, effort, you know, playing hard is a talent, and I think that it was a different kind of thing. Bryce is dominating games by scoring or blocking shots, but Tyler did everything with his sprint back on defense, taking the charge. And I would guess that Tyler Hansbrough took more charges in 2008 than anybody on my team's taken this whole year. So it was a different kind of thing, but Tyler Zeller rebounding the ball down the stretch. His last year was, I think he had 20-something rebounds in the NCAA game. And so it was different there too, but they're all awfully high-level performances is what they are. So you like to have as many of those as you get.
Time for one or two more.
Did you recruit Chris Jenkins, who's at Villanova now, Nate's brother?
It was funny because at that time Chris was living with Nate and his family. I remember telling Big Nate, I said, you know, we've got some scholarship offers out there and some things that may or may not happen. And I said, I'm going to get more and more interested in Chris. And there may be a time if he doesn't sign early that I may want to talk to Chris. So he's an undersized four-man, but I like undersized four-man because they cause matchup problems for the other team too. But Chris was offered by Villanova and felt very comfortable about that, so we could go. But if he had not signed in the fall, I think we would have gotten even more and more interested as time went down.
You've mentioned before about wanting to bring, Coach Buddy Baldwin to the Final Four. How often do you get to talk with him in the postseason, and what's it kind of like to be able to take him back there this weekend?
It's one of my things I'm more proud of than anything is I say that my teams have taken me to 7, and now I get to say my teams have taken me to 8 Final Fours, but I've got my high school coach there with me every year, and he'll be there in Houston too. He was in Philadelphia, he was in Washington, D.C. He's fought and beat cancer 3 times. He's had a kidney removed, bladder removed. He's getting back out on the golf course, so it's real for me, but I talk to him a heck of a lot more than I should. It used to be a pain in the butt talking to him all the time, but we talk about golf, we talk about basketball, and especially if you land in a place like Philly where there was a casino, we talk about shooting craps a little bit too.
Coach,
All of it's not good.
how's your style of coaching with guys like Bryson Kennedy different than with someone like maybe Justin?
Every kid's got to be coached differently because of the way they practice. Justin's very sincere about practice, very serious about practice. Bryson Kennedy, certain things are more important to him than it is other things. And but I think I coach everybody on our team differently. I've probably pushed. No, I wouldn't even say probably. I have pushed Bryce Johnson more than I've ever pushed any player I've ever coached. Kennedy, I get more frustrated because I think he's done the hard stuff he's already done. Losing all that weight was the hard stuff, but you got to be more explosive, be more aggressive with your play because you've got a different body now. But I think I coach everybody differently.
Last one, Art.
Troy, this is, I think, like the 13th time that a local China team has followed another one into the Final Four. And I know there's a lot of good basketball teams around here, but like in the 93 team said, we're sick of Duke. Is that any more incentive, you think, when the proximity is so close to see what's happening somewhere else and helps them the next year to get it?
It could be jealousy. You could see what all those Duke guys were doing last year and be jealous about that and want to do it yourself. But I never felt that way. When I was in Kansas, we went to 4 Final Fours because we wanted to go to the 4 Final Fours. And I think that's the most significant reason here is that these kids have been willing to do what we ask and put in the special and extra time shooting and everything. But I'm sure, they probably reacted a little bit like I do. When Duke won it last year, it made me even more fired up to do a better job. So I think it was probably maybe the jealousy angle is you see how much fun they're having, and so you want to do that yourself. But we have awfully good basketball in this area, and it's been good a long time before Roy Williams got here, and it'll be here very good a long time after Roy Williams leaves. But I would say probably jealousy more than
Thank you, sir.
Thanks,
Thanks, everybody.
guys.
Appreciate you being here.
It was long.